Pete Wishart.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and it's a pleasure to follow the Honourable Lady. She may have one of the most unusual sounding constituencies, but her work on modern slavery, and particularly work on children, is something that's got to be commended to the House, and I congratulate her for the work that she's done. I want to address what we now refer to as the Scotland bit in the Queen's speech. I think we're always grateful to Her Majesty for acknowledging Scotland in her gracious address. It usually comes about 2/3 of the way through, and again this year we weren't disappointed. In the Queen's speech, Her Majesty confirmed that her government would make the case for Scotland to remain a part of the United Kingdom. Well, no surprise to that, Madam Deputy Speaker, and it's what you would actually expect her to say. In fact, it would have been quite remarkable had she said something else. Imagine her, for example, saying, "I look forward to my subjects in Scotland securing the normal powers of an independent nation. I look forward to them enjoying the resources that will make their country one of the most dynamic and prosperous in the world." But she, of course, didn't say that. Because Her Majesty knows, as we all know in Scotland, that the whole range of facilities available to this government, to this House, will be pitted against Scotland to try and influence their vote in the course of the next few months. All of the donors and cronies down that corridor will be engaged in trying to make sure Scotland remains in the United Kingdom. All of the resources available to all the opposition parties will be engaged in ensuring that Scotland remains part of the United Kingdom. All of Whitehall, all government committees, all select committees will be engaged in trying to ensure that Scotland remains a part of the United Kingdom. Now, I'm one of 6 Scottish National Party members, and I'm therefore very much aware of the range of forces that are pitted against us. Out of the 650 members of the House, there will be 10 of us, and thank goodness for the Honourable Member for Leeds East, who's now joined the call for Scottish independence. But if we add the 800 members from down the corridor, there are 1,400 Westminster parliamentarians versus the 6 of us here who are against Scottish independence. I actually think that's quite reasonable odds to me, Madam Deputy Speaker. I think it's reasonably fair. But I think what we're going to do is recognise, as the Queen did in the speech, that the whole resource of Westminster, of the whole of the House of Commons and the whole of the House of Lords will be ranged against Scotland. And last week they even enlisted Lego figures in their fight to stop Scotland becoming independent, to much laughter and ridicule. So that's what we've got when we look at this. And in her speech, in the Scotland bit, Her Majesty also confirmed that the government will continue to implement new financial powers for the Scottish Parliament. Now, these are the new financial powers that the Prime Minister apparently has signed up to only last week. These are the remaining consequential issues, I believe, that's got to be due for the tidying up of the Scotland Act 2012 from last year. But more devolution's all the rage in Scotland. You can't walk around one of our big cities without tripping over some unionist or UK commission looking into this very issue. Everyone's here. It's like the proverbial bus all turning up at once. And it's got me wondering, I think it's got all the other people in Scotland wondering, why are they doing it now? Is it anything to do with the possibility and prospect of a referendum on independence? Surely not, Madam Deputy Speaker, but almost certainly the case. And it's curious because our unionist friends did absolutely everything to keep a more powers option off the ballot paper for the referendum in September. Anything. They would give us anything else. They'd give us the right to administer the referendum. They even allowed us to frame the question. It was us that was in charge of the franchise. The one thing they did not want was a more powers option on the ballot paper. And now we're expected to presume and accept that they're insincere in delivering all these shiny new powers. And they did so much to keep it off the ballot paper. There's 2 words we say, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'll give you in a minute. There's 2 words that we say, Madam Deputy Speaker, when it comes to that. Aye, right. Fool us once, we'll blame you. Fool us twice, it's our responsibility and our fault.
I'm very grateful to him. Might it not be, if you like, to apply the logic, that by exposing the fact that what was being offered by the Scottish National Party was the lunacy of independence, again, same within the Union, where we could in fact negotiate changes, wanted to expose the paucity of his own arguments that independence might actually be better for the people of Scotland rather than, as we know, it would be a disaster for them.
The Honourable Gentleman's got his own view, but why not bring it forward in the ballot paper? There was an accommodation with the Scottish Government for that. We were actually quite happy and relaxed about it, third question being brought forward. And the Scottish people should always get what they want. That's my view, and I'm sure it's the Honourable Gentleman's view. So it could have been there, it could have been a possibility, but it was rejected. It was rejected very clearly. It was the one thing that wasn't want to be included. And we've been here before. I was actually in my constituency. The Honourable Member will remember this. Alec Douglas Hume trooping up to Perth City Hall in 1979. And what did he say to the Scottish people? Vote no, and we'll give you something better. We'll give you a better parliament that was on offer in 1979. What did we get? What did we get? Well, absolutely. What did we get? We got 18 years of Thatcherism, the destruction of our industrial base, and Tory obscenities like the poll tax. We will not be fooled by that again. I suppose one of the funny consequences of all this, though, and it's actually quite ironic, that the party that so defiantly opposed the Scottish Parliament in any form of Scottish devolution are now the party of more devolution. They're actually got a more significant and substantial offer than the party of devolution, the Labour Party. We might be in the ridiculous situation that possibly in the next Parliament, Labour members will be opposing a Conservative government bringing forward much more powers than they intended to bring forward. Absolutely incredible that that may be the case. There's only one way to get more powers, Madam Deputy Speaker, when it comes to the Scottish Parliament. There's only one way to ensure we get the powers that Scotland needs, and that's to vote yes in the independence referendum. Because if we don't, we leave it up to this House. We leave it up to the largesse of predominantly English members to get these more powers. Now, I know lots of English members. Some of them are very good friends of mine. I don't sense or detect this mood kicking around this House that if Scotland votes no, we're rushing to give you more powers to reward you for voting no. I get the sense that they're much more interested in issues like the Barnett formula. They're concerned about what they see and to believe their own propaganda that Scotland gets more than the rest of their English regions. And I see them more concerned about that than giving us power over income tax or giving us more powers over welfare. I also sense that the other thing that consumes them is the West Lothian question about what Scottish members of Parliament could do here. I don't, maybe it's just me, I don't suspect and see this groundswell of English members of Parliament just queuing up to reward Scotland for turning down the prospect of independence. I'm actually thinking, you'll be thinking, Scotland's had its chance. It's time for my region for a change. And I think that's the view that they will take forward when it comes to that. So other than the Scotland stuff, there was no other constitutional issues within the Queen's speech. And that means we will leave this Parliament with the House of Lords commanding the same position in our democracy as when the great reforming Liberals took a part in government. What an absolute disgrace. That unelected, crony-stuffed, donor-inhabited affront to democracy will remain in the same condition as when we came into Parliament. Now, the Liberals they had lots of red lines when it came to the constitutional debate, and I'm not blaming the honourable gentleman personally if he's looking at me like that, but they could have made much more of this. They went for AV, the inconsequential mouse of a reform measure, when they could have done something about that place. And so what we've done now, we're left with that in place. And in its parting shot, the Liberals' Lord Oakeshott still hinted that cash for honours is still very much a feature of securing that place next door. It is an absurd place, and I hope that in the next Queen's speech, if there is going to be looking at this, we could do something about this affront to democracy, because this government, this time round, have done absolutely nothing. Now, some have described this Queen's speech, and we've heard it over the course of the past week, as a speech for a zombie parliament. And if it is a zombie parliament, it's got to be a phantom Queen's speech, because it doesn't actually really address the political dynamic that we have throughout the United Kingdom just now, what's actually going on and what's actually been debated, and a few members have said that just now. I think I'm about the only member who's raised the issue of UKIP. They won an election a couple of weeks ago. They've made significant gains. Nobody wants to talk about them here. Nobody will address the issue of what UKIP have done. They are pulling the strings of this government, and they are responding in the only way they know how, and that is to pander to their agenda instead of challenging it. I'm much more interested in Her Majesty's loyal opposition and what they're going to do, and I challenged the Shadow Home Secretary on this today, because they're at a defining point. They are at a critical and crucial moment. The Labour Party have two choices when it comes to the immigration UKIP agenda. They could challenge the assumptions that it's based upon, do something about it, take it on, risk not being the favourite of the right-wing press, maybe alienating a few voters who have bought into this pernicious agenda, but they can tackle it, or they can pander to it, and they can accommodate it. Now, I've seen the letters from Labour members encouraging them to accommodate the UKIP agenda, say that it must be pandered to, this must be something that could be addressed. They've got to reject it. Stand tall. Do the right thing. I know it's difficult sometimes for the Labour Party to do that. Offer some leadership. If you offer leadership on immigration, if you do challenge them on their agenda, you'll get my support. I'll help you out with that one. But do not give in to it. You're at a very, very critical position when it comes to the immigration UKIP question. Don't blow it, Labour, because the nation is watching. You cannot face two ways on this. You either take them on or you accommodate them. And I very much hope that Labour do the right thing when it comes to when it comes to this particular issue. And they've let themselves be bullied by the Tories in UKIP. It's absolutely appalling. They've been bullied into apologising for their years of immigration. It was one of the best things you did. And I can't believe that they've been bullied like this. Stand up to them, for goodness sake. Don't be afraid to say that you got it right when it came to immigration. It has been a fantastic measure for the whole of the United Kingdom. It has made this city that we're standing in one of the greatest cities in the world. Only about 30% of people who live and work in London actually came from this place. The rest of them were overseas. What has immigration done for us, as Monty Python might have asked? Well, look at this place and see what this place has achieved, and then try and say that immigration isn't a particularly good issue. So come on, Labour, get on with it, stand up to them and do the right thing. I want to come very quickly to some of the Home Office issues, and there's very few Home Office issues that actually affect Scotland. Now, we're practically independent when it comes to policing and judiciary arrangements anyway, and thank goodness for that. I mean, I see the Home Secretary when she turns up to the Police Federation for their annual meeting and she's booed and jeered and shouted down. Then I see our Cabinet Secretary turn up to the Police Federation of Scotland, who's cheered to the rafters for what we are doing for police officers in Scotland compared to what this lot are doing here. But I do welcome the Modern Slavery Bill, and even though it's for England and Wales only, I hope that it is successful, and I pay tribute to the many members who have spoken in support of this measure, and I'm sure that Scottish ministers, we have our own people trafficking bill, which will continue to work with the UK on this, and particularly in areas such as extra-territorial intervention and maritime policing. Legislative consent motions will be required for some of the measures in the Serious Crime Bill, and I know that again that my colleagues in the Scottish Government will work closely with the Home Office to ensure a coordinated response to serious crime. But we want more than that in these benches. We want more than the Scotland bit. Grateful as we are to Her Majesty, and it's great that it's included every session of Parliament, and we look forward to it being said about the little insignificant wee bits here and there, the bits of bills which apply to Scotland. We don't want the Scotland bit anymore. We want a legislative programme for Scotland in the interests of the people, according to our agenda and to our priorities, not dictated to by a government we did not vote for. That is what we get on September the 18th. That is what the Scottish people will vote for.